The question, are we truly chosen before birth, has long been a topic of profound contemplation, engaging with concepts of destiny, free will, and religious beliefs. For centuries, humans have grappled with the idea of whether our lives are preordained by a higher power, or if we are the architects of our own futures. This question, though deeply philosophical and spiritual, resonates on a personal level for many, as it touches upon the heart of our existence, our purpose, choices, and the direction of our lives. On one hand, many religious traditions suggest that our lives are not random but have been mapped out by a divine force or God. This view suggests that before birth, a divine plan is in place, and our existence serves a specific purpose. In contrast, other viewpoints advocate for free will, asserting that humans are born with the ability to shape their own destiny, independent of any preordained blueprint. This contrast between a predetermined path and personal freedom raises questions about the role of fate and the power of human choice in defining our existence. This enduring question challenges us to reflect on the forces that govern our lives and how much control we truly have over our future. It also prompts a deeper exploration of the nature of human agency. Are we passive recipients of a plan already laid out for us, or are we active participants in crafting the story of our lives? The implications of this question go beyond philosophy. They influence how we understand morality, responsibility, and our relationship with the divine, or the universe. The purpose of this article is to analyze this question from a range of perspectives, including religion, philosophy, science, and psychology. By examining these different viewpoints, we aim to uncover whether we are truly chosen before birth, or whether our future is shaped by the choices and experiences we encounter throughout life. Understanding whether or not we are chosen from birth can illuminate larger questions about freedom and human nature. It forces us to confront the limits of personal autonomy and the role that external forces, whether divine, biological, or societal, play in shaping our lives. By exploring this question, we gain valuable insight into the essence of who we are and how we relate to the world around us. The concept of being chosen before birth is deeply embedded in many religious traditions, and Christianity is no exception. In Christian teachings, particularly within the doctrines of divine providence and predestination, God is often viewed as the one who chooses individuals for specific purposes even before they are born. This perspective is linked to the belief that God has an overarching, sovereign plan for the universe and each person's life. Christians believe that God's will is enacted through each person's life journey, and the idea of being chosen suggests that individuals are selected by God to fulfill a particular divine mission on earth. In the Christian faith, this notion is tied to the idea that God not only created the world and humanity, but also carefully orchestrated the lives of individuals to fulfill a higher purpose. This aligns with the concept of predestination, particularly prominent in certain Christian denominations like Calvinism. Predestination is the belief that God has eternally chosen some people to be saved and others to be damned, a decision made before the foundation of the world. One of the most well-known Bible verses reflecting this concept is found in Jeremiah 1-5, where God tells the prophet Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." This passage suggests that Jeremiah's role as a prophet was determined by God before he was even born, reinforcing the idea that God has a divine plan for each individual, sometimes even selecting them for a specific task before their birth. Another important biblical reference is Ephesians 1-4, which says, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight." This verse highlights the notion of being chosen by God before the foundation of the world, emphasizing the idea that believers are not just randomly selected, but are chosen with purpose and intention. Many Christians interpret these verses as a reassurance that their lives are guided by God's plan, even if they do not always understand or see the full picture. Other examples in the Bible further illustrate this concept. For instance, David, the king of Israel, was chosen by God from a young age, as shown in 1 Samuel 16:7-13, where God instructs the prophet Samuel to anoint David as the future king of Israel, even though David was the youngest of his brothers and least expected to take on such a role. Similarly, Jonah was called by God to deliver a message of repentance to the city of Nineveh, a task he resisted but ultimately carried out after being swallowed by a great fish. These biblical figures, among others, were chosen by God before their birth or early in their lives to fulfill specific missions, suggesting that their lives had already been part of God's divine plan. The idea of being chosen before birth also appears in Hinduism and Buddhism, though the conceptualization differs from Christianity. In these religions, the soul's purpose is often viewed through the lens of karma and reincarnation. In Hinduism, karma refers to the actions performed in past lives that influence the circumstances of the current life, while reincarnation is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Hindus believe that the soul is eternal and goes through many lifetimes, each with its own purpose and lessons to be learned. According to Hindu teachings, each soul has a dharma, or a moral duty to fulfill in each life. This dharma is shaped by the individual's past actions and determines the path of their current life. Therefore, a person's birth and life circumstances can be seen as a form of pre-selection based on the soul's accumulated karma. In this view, the soul is not chosen in the same way it is in Christianity, but is instead guided by past actions and is born into a life that provides the opportunities needed to fulfill its purpose. For example, the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred Hindu scripture, presents the idea that individuals are born into specific roles and life circumstances to serve a higher cosmic order. In chapter 4, verse 7-8, it states, "Whenever there is a decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, O Arjuna, at that time I descend myself to protect the righteous, to annihilate the wicked, and to re-establish the principles of Dharma." This suggests that divine intervention is present in the world to ensure that individuals fulfill their life purpose, though the choice is influenced by the soul's past actions. In Buddhism, the cycle of samsara, birth, life, death, and rebirth, is central to understanding the soul's journey. Buddhists believe that each soul is born into a specific life as a result of karma accumulated in previous lives. Much like Hinduism, Buddhism views life as an opportunity for the soul to work through its karma and move toward nirvana, the ultimate liberation from the cycle of suffering. The bodhisattvas, or enlightened beings, choose to be reborn in order to help others on their spiritual path, suggesting that even in Buddhism, certain individuals are chosen for specific purposes in life, though it is framed as a self-chosen path rather than an external divine decision. In both Hinduism and Buddhism, the idea of being chosen before birth is not solely based on divine selection, but is intricately tied to the soul's journey through reincarnation, shaped by past actions, karma, and the spiritual lessons that need to be learned in each life. While many religious traditions teach that some form of pre-selection or divine choice occurs before birth, they also emphasize free will and the responsibility individuals have for their actions. In Christianity, even though there is a belief in predestination, free will is still central to Christian doctrine. Christians are encouraged to respond to God's calling through faith, repentance, and good works. The tension between predestination and free will has been a subject of theological debate for centuries, with some arguing that God's sovereignty and human free will can coexist. Similarly, in Hinduism and Buddhism, while karma and reincarnation suggest that individuals are born into specific life circumstances to fulfill their soul's purpose, both religions also teach the importance of individual choice. In Hinduism, the practice of yoga and devotion to God, bhakti, allows individuals to work towards spiritual liberation, showing that the soul can change its destiny through conscious effort and spiritual practice. In Buddhism, mindful living, meditation, and ethical conduct allow individuals to transcend their karma and move closer to enlightenment, giving them the power to change their future by overcoming the cycle of samsara. The distinction between free will and divine predestination is evident in both the Abrahamic and Eastern religions, where there is a balance between being chosen for a divine purpose and the ability to make choices that affect one's destiny. The concept of being chosen is not necessarily a denial of free will, but rather a recognition that individuals are both guided by a higher power and empowered to make their own decisions. Religious traditions across the world often link the idea of being chosen with a divine plan, suggesting that each life may be predestined or has a purpose before birth. Whether through the Christian belief in divine selection for specific roles, the Hindu and Buddhist views on karma and reincarnation, or the broader theological discussions around fate and free will, religions provide a framework for understanding life's purpose and the role of divine selection. While the details vary, the common thread is that life is not entirely random, and there is a larger purpose or guiding force at work, whether through God's plan, karma, or spiritual destiny. This provides individuals with a sense of meaning and direction, even if the full extent of their divine purpose may not always be clear. Religion often suggests that while we are chosen for specific purposes, we are also empowered to make choices that align with or deviate from that purpose. The idea of being chosen is not just about fate, but also about responsibility, action, and the opportunity to fulfill a greater divine plan. Through faith, prayer, and spiritual practice, individuals can discover their path and live out the purpose they were chosen for before birth. The idea of fate, that life's events are predetermined and beyond individual control, has been a topic of philosophical debate for centuries. In many ancient philosophies, fate was seen as an overarching force that governed the lives of individuals, often attributed to gods or cosmic forces. The question of whether we are predestined to follow a particular path or whether we can shape our own futures is one that continues to provoke thought across philosophical traditions. One of the earliest and most influential thinkers to explore the concept of fate was Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher. Plato's ideas on fate and the soul suggest that before reincarnation, the soul may have some degree of influence over its future life. In his dialogues, especially in works like The Republic and Phaedo, Plato presents the idea of pre-life consciousness, the notion that the soul is aware of its destiny before it enters the physical world. According to Plato, the soul has a divine origin and a role to play in the cosmic order, and before birth, it may choose its path based on its previous experiences or wisdom. This implies that the soul might select its circumstances and purpose in the material world before taking form. In this view, fate is not merely an external force imposed on individuals, but rather a self-determined path chosen by the soul itself before birth. The soul's choices are tied to the idea that it is on a journey of moral and intellectual development. This pre-life consciousness suggests that the soul enters each life with a purpose and direction, which may be based on lessons from previous lives, as seen in the context of Plato's belief in reincarnation. However, the idea of fate is not universally accepted across all philosophical traditions. While Plato posited that the soul might choose its destiny, materialism, a philosophical view that focuses on the material world and dismisses spiritual or divine causes, challenges the concept of fate as something beyond physical reality. According to materialist thinkers, all events in life, including our thoughts and actions, can be explained by random factors and natural laws, with no room for a preordained plan. This view argues that fate is an illusion created by the human tendency to seek patterns in life's uncertainties. The materialist perspective raises the question, does fate truly exist, or are all events in life the result of random factors and free will? In this view, the course of life is shaped not by a cosmic plan but by a series of interactions between our biology, environment, and the choices we make. If life is the result of purely material conditions and random occurrences, the concept of a predetermined fate becomes less plausible. While the idea of fate suggests a predetermined life path, many philosophers have championed the concept of free will, the belief that individuals have the ability to make choices independent of any preordained destiny. Free will implies that, despite external circumstances, individuals are capable of exercising autonomy and shaping their own futures. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Immanuel Kant have argued that human beings possess inherent freedom and responsibility to make decisions that define their lives. Jean-Paul Sartre, a leading figure in existentialism, argued that humans are fundamentally free, and it is through our choices that we define our essence. Sartre famously said, "Existence precedes essence," meaning that humans are not born with a fixed nature or predetermined destiny. Instead, we create our own essence, our identity, values, and purpose through the decisions we make. Sartre's philosophy centers around the idea that we are free to act and are responsible for the consequences of our actions. In this framework, fate does not play a role in shaping who we become. Rather, it is the exercise of free will that gives our lives meaning and direction. In contrast to the determinism implied by the concept of fate, Sartre's existentialism emphasizes choice and personal responsibility. For Sartre, the very act of making decisions is what defines us as human beings. The burden of freedom, however, is the realization that we are accountable for our actions, and there is no higher power or cosmic plan that dictates our choices. According to Sartre, the idea of being chosen before birth is incompatible with the human experience of freedom, where we must create meaning for ourselves through our choices. Similarly, Immanuel Kant, a key figure in Enlightenment philosophy, argued that individuals possess the capacity for free will and moral agency. Kant's ethical theory, known as the categorical imperative, asserts that moral actions are those that can be universally applied, and individuals must choose to act in ways that respect the autonomy of others. Kant believed that moral responsibility relies on the individual's capacity to choose freely, in accordance with rational principles, rather than being bound by fate or divine predestination. In this sense, Kant's philosophy also challenges the idea that people are chosen for a specific role in life, or that their paths are predetermined. Kant's emphasis on autonomy and rationality aligns with the broader philosophical tradition of libertarianism in the context of free will, which maintains that humans are capable of acting freely, independent of deterministic factors. This perspective places the power of choice and personal responsibility at the heart of the human experience, suggesting that each individual has the ability to shape their life, regardless of any divine or cosmic blueprint. In addition to the existentialist and Kantian views of free will, the broader philosophical tradition of humanism emphasizes the potential for human beings to shape their futures through personal actions and decisions. Humanism focuses on the intrinsic value of human dignity and the capacity for individuals to live meaningful, ethical lives, guided by reason, empathy, and the pursuit of knowledge. Humanists believe that people are not constrained by fate, but have the freedom and responsibility to make choices that lead to personal growth and societal betterment. Humanism suggests that, rather than being chosen for a particular purpose before birth, individuals have the ability to define their own purpose and direction in life. Through education, self-awareness, and collective action, human beings can improve their circumstances and contribute to the well-being of others. In this view, the future is not predetermined, but is shaped by human agency, the conscious choices and actions of individuals. In humanist thought, self-determination plays a central role in determining the course of one's life. The belief in human potential is grounded in the idea that each person has the power to pursue happiness, achieve goals, and create meaning in their lives. The concept of being chosen before birth, as seen in religious or fatalistic systems, is rejected in favor of the idea that we are responsible for our own fate. By exercising free will, individuals can transcend the limitations of circumstance and shape their future based on personal aspirations and moral values. Humanism aligns with contemporary views on psychological empowerment, where individuals are encouraged to take control of their lives through self-improvement, decision-making, and active participation in society. It challenges the deterministic view of fate, asserting that people have the capacity to change their future through deliberate action, rather than being bound by a predetermined destiny. Philosophical perspectives on fate and free will suggest that the concept of being chosen before birth is likely an abstract idea that does not hold much weight in the context of human autonomy. While various philosophical traditions, such as Plato's pre-life consciousness and certain materialist views, provide frameworks for understanding fate, philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Immanuel Kant, and the tradition of humanism argue that free will plays a more important role in shaping the future of each person. Sartre's existentialism and Kant's moral philosophy both underscore the centrality of personal choice and responsibility in defining one's path. For these thinkers, fate is not something that constrains human action, but rather, individuals are free to define their lives through their decisions. Similarly, humanism celebrates the potential of human beings to shape their own future through reason, action, and moral responsibility. Philosophy suggests that the idea of being chosen before birth is more aligned with religious or deterministic views and does not fully capture the power of human agency. In the end, while fate may play a role in some contexts, free will remains the most compelling force in defining the course of our lives. It is through our choices, not a predetermined path, that we shape our futures. In scientific discussions about human development, genetics plays a significant role in shaping an individual's physical attributes, health, and some aspects of personality. Genetic factors influence how we look, how we age, and even our susceptibility to certain diseases. The question, however, arises: does this mean we are chosen before birth? Are our abilities, traits, and life outcomes predetermined by our genes? Or is there room for personal choice and development? In biological terms, genes are inherited from our parents, forming the foundation of our physical and some psychological traits. These genetic instructions govern everything from eye color to potential genetic predispositions for diseases like cancer or heart disease. Scientists have long studied how different genetic combinations lead to variations in individuals, from physical characteristics to mental health disorders. However, genetics alone doesn't determine everything about a person. There are vast complexities to the question of what is predetermined in life versus what is shaped by external factors such as environment and experience. For example, while a person may inherit genes that make them more prone to developing certain traits or conditions, how those traits manifest in their life may be influenced by external factors. The concept of being chosen before birth seems to suggest that an individual's life course is set in stone from the very beginning, governed solely by their genetic makeup. However, modern science suggests that genetics alone cannot fully explain a person's development. The interplay between genes and environment shapes the entire life trajectory, and this creates the possibility of personal growth and transformation. One of the most significant breakthroughs in modern science, especially in the fields of psychology and behavioral science, is the understanding that people are not simply products of their genetics. While our genes give us a foundation, our environment, education, and life experiences play a pivotal role in shaping who we are and who we become. Research in developmental psychology and epigenetics has shown that environmental factors such as family dynamics, education, social interactions, and life challenges can profoundly influence our development. For example, a child born into a family with a history of mental health disorders may inherit a genetic predisposition to these conditions. But whether they actually develop these disorders can depend on factors such as how they are raised, their social environment, and how they cope with stress. In this way, personality formation is a dynamic process shaped by both innate tendencies and external influences. While genetics might lay the groundwork for certain traits such as introversion or extroversion, emotional sensitivity, or intellectual ability, the environment and experiences play a crucial role in how these traits are expressed and refined throughout life. This insight challenges the idea of being chosen or predestined. If everything about a person's future were predetermined by their genetic code, there would be no room for the development of new traits, the change of behavior patterns, or the ability to grow through experience. Instead, humans demonstrate a remarkable capacity to adapt, learn, and change, proving that life's outcomes are shaped by ongoing interactions between our genetics and our environment. The classic debate of nature versus nurture addresses the extent to which our genes, nature, or our environment, nurture, determine our development. It is now clear that the interaction between both factors shapes who we are. This debate has evolved over time, with researchers increasingly recognizing that both genetic inheritance and environmental factors play crucial roles in shaping behavior, personality, and even the way we think. Genetics provides us with a set of potential predispositions. For example, a person may be genetically predisposed to be more anxious or introverted, but their environment, including parental influence, education, and social interactions, can affect how these tendencies are managed and expressed. A person born into an emotionally supportive family might develop greater resilience to stress, despite having a genetic tendency towards anxiety. On the other hand, someone born into a highly stressful or neglectful environment may experience amplified anxiety, even if their genetic predisposition is less pronounced. This dynamic interaction between genes and environment has profound implications for the idea of being chosen before birth. If an individual's genetic makeup influences their predispositions, but does not determine their entire future, this challenges the concept that life is predestined in any meaningful way. The outcome of a person's life is not solely based on their genetic inheritance, but is the result of an ongoing process of adaptation to environmental factors. In the study of epigenetics, researchers have discovered that environmental factors can even influence how genes are expressed. This means that life experiences such as trauma, stress, diet, and social interactions can activate or deactivate certain genes, altering their influence on a person's development. This discovery further reinforces the idea that we are not simply the products of our genes or fate, but rather the result of a continuous interaction between our genetic makeup and the environment in which we live. Even within the confines of genetics, there is biological diversity. Gene patterns can vary greatly, even among individuals with the same genetic makeup, leading to different life outcomes. For instance, two siblings may inherit the same genetic traits from their parents, but end up with different personalities, experiences, and life paths. This variation highlights the complexity of human development and suggests that life is not predestined. While genetics play a role in shaping traits such as height, eye color, or predisposition to certain diseases, these traits do not dictate a person's future decisions, relationships, or achievements. The fact that people with the same genetic background can follow vastly different life paths, influenced by their choices, opportunities, and life experiences, strongly suggests that life is a fluid, developmental process rather than a predetermined series of events. For example, identical twins, who share the exact same DNA, can still lead very different lives. Their individual personalities, career choices, relationships, and health outcomes may be shaped by environmental factors, decisions they make, and even the way they respond to the same stimuli. This variability highlights the power of individual agency in shaping one's future and further challenges the idea of being chosen before birth. From a scientific perspective, the idea of being chosen before birth, as if life outcomes are entirely predetermined by fate or genetic destiny, does not align with current scientific understanding. Genetics plays an important role in shaping who we are, but it is only part of the equation. The environment, our life experiences, and our personal choices all contribute significantly to who we become. Science suggests that human development is dynamic and multifactorial, with no single force, whether genetic or environmental, completely determining the course of our lives. While we may inherit genetic traits that influence certain aspects of our lives, we still possess the ability to make choices and adapt to our environment in ways that shape our futures. Our lives are not predestined, but rather they evolve continuously based on how we interact with both our internal genetic makeup and the external world around us. Thus, science supports the view that we are not chosen in the sense of being locked into a predetermined path, but instead, we actively shape our own futures through decisions, actions, and the experiences we encounter. Psychology offers significant insight into the idea that individuals have the capacity to shape their lives and determine their own destinies through self-development. One of the most well-known psychological theories on self-development is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. According to Maslow, humans have a hierarchy of needs, beginning with basic physiological needs and advancing through safety, love, and belonging, esteem, and ultimately reaching self-actualization, the realization of one's full potential. Maslow suggests that humans are motivated by a need to satisfy these different levels of needs, and that achieving self-actualization, the ability to reach one's full potential and live authentically, is the highest form of personal development. This concept directly contradicts the idea that a person's future is predetermined or that they are chosen for a specific path before birth. Instead, Maslow's theory emphasizes the human capacity for growth and the ability to shape one's life by fulfilling progressively higher levels of needs. Individuals have the ability to self-actualize by actively working toward personal growth, whether through self-awareness, creative expression, problem-solving, or achieving mastery in various areas of life. Maslow's model suggests that human potential is vast, and individuals can transform their lives by pursuing personal fulfillment in a way that aligns with their desires, values, and innate capabilities. This reinforces the idea that people are not chosen to live a specific, fixed life. Instead, they are capable of shaping their destiny through ongoing self-development and personal choices. Additionally, behavioral psychology also offers a valuable perspective on self-development. B.F. Skinner, a key figure in behavioral psychology, emphasized the importance of the environment in shaping character and behavior. According to Skinner, behavior is shaped by environmental stimuli, and habits are formed through reinforcement. The process of habit formation, through positive or negative reinforcement, suggests that people can shape their future through the continuous formation of positive habits and by actively responding to their environment. For example, an individual who wishes to develop healthier habits, such as exercising regularly, can do so by creating an environment that encourages those behaviors. For example, joining a gym, having workout partners, setting reminders. The continuous reinforcement of these habits can lead to personal growth and the achievement of goals. This underscores the role of the environment in shaping behavior, but also highlights the individual's capacity to create and influence their own path by actively engaging with their surroundings. One of the most central psychological concepts related to self-development and self-determination is self-determination theory, SDT, which emphasizes intrinsic motivation as a key factor in achieving personal growth and success. Self-determination theory posits that people are most motivated when they engage in activities that are inherently enjoyable or fulfilling, rather than for external rewards or pressures. This intrinsic motivation plays a crucial role in determining life's direction, as individuals are more likely to persist in activities that align with their personal values and passions. When individuals are intrinsically motivated, they experience greater autonomy and control over their actions. This can lead to higher levels of satisfaction and personal achievement. The theory suggests that when individuals feel that they have the power to make choices and determine their own path, they are more likely to pursue meaningful goals and grow in ways that are aligned with their true selves. For example, someone who is motivated by their passion for art might dedicate themselves to pursuing a career as an artist, not because of financial gain or societal expectations, but because they find deep personal fulfillment in the creative process. This intrinsic motivation empowers them to make choices that lead to personal growth and success, demonstrating how individual decisions can shape one's future. The concept of intrinsic motivation directly challenges the notion that a person's life is predetermined. It shows that we are not limited by fate, but rather have the freedom to pursue our dreams and reshape our future. In contrast, extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards such as money, praise, or approval, can lead to temporary success, but often lacks long-term satisfaction. SDT emphasizes the importance of aligning actions with intrinsic values in order to create lasting fulfillment and a sense of authentic self-direction. Therefore, by prioritizing intrinsic goals and making decisions based on internal desires, individuals can have a profound impact on the course of their lives. Another crucial psychological theory that supports the idea of self-determination and challenges the notion of being chosen before birth is Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory. Bandura emphasized that humans develop and learn not only through personal experience, but also through social interactions and the observation of others. His concept of observational learning, or modeling, suggests that people acquire new behaviors and skills by observing others in their social environment. Bandura's theory introduces the concept of reciprocal determinism, which posits that personal factors, behaviors, and environmental influences interact to shape an individual's development. This theory emphasizes that people are not passive recipients of predetermined destinies, but are active agents in shaping their behavior and life outcomes. Through social interactions, observing others, and learning from their experiences, individuals can alter their behavior, develop new skills, and ultimately change the direction of their lives. For instance, a young person who grows up in a challenging environment might observe positive role models who demonstrate resilience, success, and personal growth. These observations can inspire the individual to adopt similar behaviors and make decisions that alter their life path. Bandura's social cognitive theory highlights the potential for individuals to learn and develop through social influences, which directly challenges the idea that we are chosen for a particular life or purpose before birth. Instead, people shape their futures through interaction with others and the choices they make in response to their environment. Social cognitive theory also underscores the importance of self-efficacy, the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations. Individuals with a high sense of self-efficacy are more likely to take initiative and make decisions that lead to positive outcomes. By believing in their own abilities, people can exert control over their future and break free from the constraints of external expectations or predetermined paths. This reinforces the idea that we are not merely products of fate, but active participants in shaping our destiny. Psychology affirms that self-development and decision-making are powerful forces in shaping the future, suggesting that personal growth is not something predetermined, but rather a continuous process influenced by our choices, experiences, and environment. The theories of Maslow, Skinner, Sartre, Bandura, and others emphasize that individuals are not bound by the idea of being chosen before birth. Rather, we have the capacity to self-actualize, make independent choices, and reshape our futures based on our actions, values, and motivations. The notion of self-determination, the ability to make choices and decisions that influence life outcomes, is central to many psychological theories. Whether through intrinsic motivation, social learning, or the fulfillment of personal needs, psychology affirms that individuals are capable of creating meaningful lives through deliberate choices. We are not passive victims of fate, but active agents who can influence our paths. In essence, psychology supports the idea that we shape our own futures through self-development, decision-making, and interaction with the environment. Life's course is not predestined, and personal responsibility plays a critical role in determining who we become and how we experience the world. The psychological perspective encourages us to embrace our agency and empowerment, reinforcing that we are not chosen before birth, but rather have the power to choose the life we want to create. The question, are we really chosen before birth, is one that does not have a single, definitive answer. Its interpretation depends on the perspectives of religion, philosophy, science, and psychology. While many religious traditions suggest that each person has a divine purpose or plan determined before birth, philosophical, scientific, and psychological perspectives often emphasize the importance of free will and personal choice in shaping a person's life. From the religious belief in predestination to the psychological focus on self-determination, it is clear that different systems of thought offer various interpretations of what it means to be chosen and whether that concept is relevant to human existence. The importance of this question lies not so much in whether we are chosen before birth, but in our self-awareness and the responsibility we carry in shaping our own lives. Regardless of external influences, the real power we possess is in our ability to make decisions, to adapt, and to create meaning in our lives through our actions and choices. The question encourages us to reflect on how we view ourselves and our potential, recognizing that we are active participants in defining our own future rather than passive recipients of fate. This question calls for deeper reflection on the role each individual plays in life. It invites us to consider how we perceive our purpose and what steps we can take to shape our own futures. Are we living according to a higher plan, or are we crafting our own destiny through the decisions we make every day? By contemplating this, we become more conscious of the opportunities and power we have in defining who we are and what we want to become. If you found this video helpful and thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring and thought-provoking content. Let's continue this journey of self-reflection and personal growth together.